My next guest on the Business Samurai podcast is Mathew Kerbis, who is trying to revolutionize the legal industry with subscription-based attorney fees. He is trying to lower the barrier of cost for those that need real legal advice. On this episode, we're going to break down exactly the type of law he practices, how he came up with the subscription-based business model, and how he has seen his revenue dip and climb, and what other specialties within the legal industry that this may apply to. So sit back and listen as I speak with Mathew Kerbis, the subscription attorney, here on the Business Samurai podcast. Do you enjoy talking business? Do you enjoy reading about business? Do you geek out over the entrepreneurial journey? If so, then you are in the right spot. The Business Samurai podcast brings you the stories told by the people themselves. You'll be immersed in a wide variety of industries, from venture capital to gourmet popcorn, learning how to be a better leader, or the personalities behind solving the broadband crisis. At the Business Samurai, we believe it takes a wide variety of skill sets and experiences to be successful in business and life. Our aim is to not only entertain, but educate, for you to recognize how successful tactics and motivations in one industry can help propel you forward in your own unique business. Sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the Business Samurai podcast. I am your host, John Barkley. Mathew, so you've got a pretty unique way that you kind of handle your business with a different business model than anybody I know within the legal industry is from being a lawyer's perspective. But before we kind of get into that, I want to tease everybody. Let's set it up. What type of law do you practice? What areas are your specialties?
Yeah, so at least I have to say that I can't help myself. I'm a lawyer. In the state of Illinois, attorneys don't specialize. It's
really?
So,
okay.
So, I can't hold myself out as specialized. But I do have a number of different practice areas that I tend to practice more in. Now, I did leave another firm to start my own practice earlier this year in March of 2022. And so I'm still sort of finding more of my niche, but I'm starting out as general practice. And what does that look like so far? That's looked like real estate contracts, general everyday contracts, advising small business owners on some employment issues, representing landlords with disputes with their tenants, some basic estate planning type things. I'm not really focusing in on one thing in particular. And we'll get into the model, but what it comes down to is I'm kind of like fractionalized in-house counsel. So like when an attorney will go in-house and work just for a company, I'm kind of like that, but only a part of that, like a small slice of what a full-time in-house attorney would be for small businesses, for freelancers, and for everyday people. And so if you look at my website, subscriptionattorney.com, you'll see that those are like the three different buckets that I've separated my sort of business and websites into: individuals, freelancers, everyday people. I'm like fractionalized in-house counsel for people's lives or for anything. So that, along with that, is like a general practice. So whatever somebody's needs are, if I can't solve it, like you had the trademark attorney on, if it gets to a point where they're ready to file a trademark, I'm going to refer it to an attorney to help them file a trademark. But I could be dangerous with some trademark knowledge, where I could advise somebody on thoughts and considerations in setting up a brand and setting up a business. But then when it comes time to the actual filing, that's something that I'm going to recommend that they go to, outside counsel. Like at a company, eventually in-house counsel can't handle everything. So they're going to refer to outside counsel. So I kind of operate like that. And I don't do any litigation. I have 8 years of litigation experience, but I've kind of left that behind me now.
So speaking of litigation, you're talking about actually going into a courtroom and arguing a case for plaintiffs and defendants and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I did that for years, and I got my fill of it. And frankly, it's a huge waste for society. So my opinion is let's do litigation avoidance. I'm going to help people resolve cases and resolve disputes before ending up in court. And one of the ways I do this is with my business model, by making it way more affordable to hire me to do that than any other attorney, probably in America. Although I'm only licensed in Illinois. And I haven't yet come across an attorney that charges what I charge. So I like to think, at least right now, I'm the most affordable attorney in America. If you live in Illinois or are transacting in the state of Illinois, you could hire me.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. So, and trust me, we're going to go deep into how you came up with the business model. I want to tease that because I still want to set the groundwork, because I don't know how many people actually have interacted with lawyers before. I've consulted with plenty in the technical side that were basically either criminal defense or kind of family law practice. So I've had a lot of exposure to actually how they function and how they work, how they charge people. But I don't know from a day-to-day perspective what, people always think of, oh, it's expensive, or I can figure this out on myself on Google. Who is typically the person that's finally reached enough that level they said, I need to go get some help? So how's that structure usually work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And this is also one of the reasons why I think the legal profession is broken, because if you listen to like marketing companies that exclusively work for lawyers and help them get business, the things that they talk about are somebody's pain point is reached such a tipping point that they have no choice but to pay you a premium to hire you. And that doesn't make any sense. From if you look at any other industry, any other business model, you're going to wait until somebody's issue has reached such a boiling point that they have no choice but to hire an expert. Like, this is like waiting until, the pipe has burst before hiring a plumber, right? That's too late. And then the plumber is going to come in and they're going to charge you 5 times what they would normally charge you, because they do have to ignore other business, right? That they're handling, but the problem is lawyers only price for that. They only price for the premium, and that's typically done with the billable hour. Now, the lowest billable hour I've seen for private practice attorneys, and I'm well networked with the American Bar Association, which I think we're going to get into, so we can talk about that, but I do know what lawyers are charging across the country. The lowest I've seen is $250 an hour. And I don't know about you, John, like on a personal level, like maybe for your business, it's another story, but on a personal level, I couldn't afford $250 an hour. And so, like, for everyday people, they're already priced out of hiring lawyers unless they have no other choice. And that's cheap on the billable hour, $250 an hour. It gets as high as $1,000 an hour when you're dealing with like antitrust issues, right? Of course, back then you're probably a company. But for small businesses, they're also typically priced out of that. So, and it's like going to a restaurant and ordering a fish at market price, but the server says, I can't tell you what that market price is until you finished eating the fish. And then you have no choice. You have to pay it, right? Because you ate the fish. So you got the legal services, so you have to pay it. And like lawyers end up in disputes with their clients. They're chasing bills. It's a really inefficient way to run a business, let alone the fact that it's not affordable, for clients. And so I've set it up so for $20 a month, of course, it's $19.99 a month. You could get access to my messages. So I have a client portal. I don't communicate over email with clients because it's not encrypted. It's less secure. So they could message me through a client portal, or they could, through their client portal, book like a Zoom or a phone call meeting with me, and they have access to my calendar. Now, at the $20 a month, they only have access to a small amount of my calendar, right? Like I only have 2 hours a day to those level subscribers, but I do have that carved out specifically for them. But then for the subscribers that pay a higher amount, or the freelancers or business clients, they have access to my entire calendar. So it's not about, and it's only in 15-minute slices. So like I'm controlling my calendar, I'm controlling my time, because I'm not billing by my time, which is how most attorneys bill. So this way they know exactly what they're paying per month. They know how to get in touch with me, and they're encouraged to get in touch with me, as opposed to, people they're like, should I call my lawyer because I'm going to be billed $250 an hour? But for me, it's like, no, I want you to call me because I want to help you, because eventually you're going to need some services that go outside of just the messaging advice, the over the phone advice, and you're going to need me to file something on your behalf. You're going to need me to help you negotiate or review a contract. And there I have very predictable, transparent, flat fee pricing on my website and in my client portal for what that's going to cost you exactly, so there's no surprises. So I've designed the anti-law firm so that my clients can know exactly what it's going to cost, and it's also more affordable than like what the billable hour would be. Now, there are some lawyers who are doing the subscription model where they're trying to keep parity with the billable hour, so it's still expensive, but the clients know what it's going to cost up front. So there is like flat fee subscription model attorneys out there who are trying this, but it's still pricing out a lot of people. So I've decided I'm going to attack this blue ocean of people who have been long unserved, and just make legal services more affordable, because the model, that like, what is the typical thing? A lot of people don't hire lawyers for exactly those reasons.
So I will share 2 stories. One is personal and one is what I observed, and that backs that up. So years ago, I was consulting
from a technology perspective, because I got a tech and cyber and do more business stuff now, where I merge it together from a strategic standpoint. But I was very hands-on in my earlier days. And I remember being in this, basically as family law practice. There was just a handful of lawyers, a couple of admin people. And on the person's desk, the lawyer's desk, was literally a long sheet of paper where they had broken down their time to the minute. I kid you, it wasn't even like you see a lot of people where they were going, hey, it's a minimum of 15 minutes or it's a minimum of blah, 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 whatever you've got. But she actually had broken it down per minute. And I remember sitting in there going, how much time did it take just to track that on its own? Because each thing would be 3 minutes for this, 3 minutes for this, and 2 minutes for this, and 1 minute for this. It was absolutely, absolutely insane. And to me, that seemed to be inefficient from just an implementation standpoint on their side. And then on the other end, on a personal experience, we my wife and I recently moved from a house that was utterly horrible. I started doing a bunch of digging because the builder wasn't living up to expectations. If you name it, everything in the house broke. We finally got to a point that we said, something's not right. We got to get some help with this. I can't get them to do anything. The short story, they couldn't help anyway because laws in Virginia don't do anything to help the homeowner. But everybody that would even talk to us, it was a minimum of $300 an hour. Minimum, or actually, I take that back. They were all $300 an hour. It wasn't even a minimum. It was just no matter who you called. There was only a handful of them that would even talk to you about real estate, but you never knew what you were going to get billed for. So we'd go meet with them. We'd have a meeting, and then 3 weeks later, we get a letter in the mail, and then saying, "Oh yeah, we charged you for 20 minutes to write this letter." I said, "Dude, I don't need a letter. Take 5 minutes and send me an email. How about this? I took notes during the meeting. Don't send me anything." And start charging me from that predictable standpoint. So that was like my personal experience until it just got, it wasn't worth paying anymore. We weren't getting anywhere. So I like the idea of having a very predictable revenue model for you. I imagine it's easier to control. How did you come up with this idea, and how have you seen your revenue, profit, loss compare when you transition from typical hourly billing to the subscription model?
Yeah, these are some really good questions. So I came up with it it was just like a genesis of all these different things synthesizing into this idea for the subscription model. Like, I didn't necessarily read one thing and it's like, aha, that I'm going to launch the subscription model. It wasn't really a light bulb moment. It was sort of just so many things came together. And this ties into my involvement in the American Bar Association. So when I was a law student, I got involved in the ABA, and I ended up getting elected to serve as chair of the law student division for the ABA. And that's kind of like being president of America's law students, at least at the accredited ABA law schools. And in California,
that's cool.
There's a lot of non-accredited ABA law schools. It's not. It's like chairing a board that puts on events and advocates for like reform for law students, right? So I got to travel the country, lobby for legal education reform, and just talk to students everywhere. And the biggest issue that law students were facing upon graduating, and this hasn't changed in 11 years, is student loans. Like everyone's really worried about getting a job and paying down their student loans. People think going to law school is like a surefire way to become a millionaire. It's not. Like 10% of like graduates of like on the whole, or at least this was true years ago. I'm sure it's in the same ballpark. Actually like graduate like making a lot of money. Like most lawyers make between like $50,000 and $80,000 upon graduating. Now, that you could increase that, right? I mean, because the sky's the limit, especially if you could bring in business. Like, business development is like a huge thing, right? And especially if you adopt the subscription model, you can maybe get there sooner. Now, my model is not going to make you a millionaire necessarily, especially if you're a solo practitioner like me, but you could have a very sustainable lifestyle business and pay down your student loans and like live a comfortable life. And provide service to a lot of people, because with the subscription model, you could scale your business. There's only so many hours in the day. But I sort of had that problem in the back of my head. And then as I continued to be involved in the ABA as a young lawyer, take on other leadership roles, one of the other big things that they push is access to justice. Lawyers aren't affordable. we have to find a way to do access to justice. What's one of the ways we do this? We lobby Congress, and I've actually been to Congress in person and done Zoom meetings in this era to lobby Congress to give more money to the Legal Services Corporation. They give hundreds of millions of dollars to Legal Services Corporation, and they spread it across the country in different states for different nonprofits and legal services organizations to give pro bono or free legal services to people who can't afford it. The problem is you have to be under a certain income level to even qualify for that. So there's this massive gap in lack of access to justice and legal services that isn't being filled.
Can I ask something related to that? When you talked about having access, I'm thinking like court appointed stuff. Watched a lot of Law and Order and things of that nature. Is the threshold a hard barrier? So if you're $1 over it, you get no assistance, or is it like a staircase where the amount of assistance you can get decreases the more income that you have? How does that work?
I'm fairly certain that if you make over a certain amount of money, you don't qualify.
It's just a hard cap.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
So,
I'm pretty
okay.
sure. I mean, I don't engage in pro bono legal services, and I never have because
Sure.
I came out of law school with 6 figures of student loan debt, and I had to go get the highest paying job that I could. So I've never done that. I volunteer in other ways, like through the American Bar Association, trying to improve the profession, increase access to justice, all that. And I've never been in the financial situation where I've needed that. So I don't know from personal experience, but I'm fairly certain in light of my, other knowledge that I've gained from being involved in the ABA that it's a hard cap. But that being said, they don't necessarily know that they could go get legal services, right, that they qualify for, right? So there's a huge, huge problem. So then I'm just very involved in legal tech and innovation in the profession. And I might have read an article or two of some attorneys trying what we call alternative fee arrangements. And I was also billing by the hour and just hating it, right? And so I've got these things in the back of my head, and it all kind of came together. I was like, wait a minute. The subscription model is a way to help young lawyers make more money without having to build their time, which actually helps with mental health issues and all these other problems that it solves, which the profession tries to deal with, and it creates sustainable revenue if it's implemented the right way, and then people could actually see what they're going to be paying, which is solving another problem that we already talked about. But also you could since you could take on more clients and scale your business, you could actually lower the cost to deliver those services, and then the incentives are aligned to adopt technology to make your practice efficient and effective instead of trying to take as long as it takes to work on something when you're billing by the hour, right? So you're starting to align the incentives, so then just according to economics, right, you should be able to lower your price per client per service. So that could help bridge the access to justice gap. It could help lawyers make money to pay down their student loan debts. And so it just kind of all came together for me. I was like, aha. And so I just started to design my own model. I designed it over 2 years. And then I did end up finding other lawyers who have the model and are using it in their own ways. Actually, it really started in the trademark copyright space because you need to continue to protect your brand, send cease and desist letters. And so there's obvious ongoing legal services, right? So it started in that space. Kim Bennett, the first guest I had on my podcast, Law Subscribed. So now I was I'm doing all this research. I'm talking to these lawyers. I might as well start a podcast about it, right? So so I have a podcast. And so I had her on my first episode. She was really one of the first pioneers in the space, and that's where she did it. And that makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm trying something very new. I'm trying to do a subscription model that's accessible to everybody in the state of Illinois, right? If you're transacting in the state. But this is one of the reasons why I'm appearing on your podcast, John, is to spread the word about it, because I'm only a solo practitioner in my state. I want, you've had lawyers on your show, and I want people to know they could demand this of their lawyers about more transparent pricing. And if they don't know it, and if the lawyer they're talking to doesn't know it, then these people who listen to your show can say to their lawyer, well, hey, there's this attorney, Mathew Kerbis. He has this podcast called Law Subscribed. Go listen to that podcast, and then maybe we'll talk again next week after you've launched a more, more affordable practice. But it's really, I see it as kind of a silver bullet to solve a lot of these problems. I don't think it's going to solve it completely. Some people can't afford even $20 a month, right? But I think it could help close that gap, so then the money that we're spending on everything else can be more focused on the people that actually need it. And the money we're spending, I mean as a government, as a society. And I think you asked some other questions too, but first I'll see if you have any follow-up to all that.
Oh, there was a lot there. I was trying to take notes so I didn't forget in the middle of the stream. So a few things. First off, with the type of niches that you're currently doing in there, if what's the engagement? What's the incentive for somebody to go, hey, I need you on Tuesday of this month, but I know that the follow-on piece will not be 3 months from now. How does the model work for somebody? Are they locked in for a year? Is it just a month to month as they need it? So they stick with you during those, maybe there's 3 months you're waiting. Let's take patent and trademark attorney, for example. The lawyer that I've used for that is a flat fee. He's just totally flat fee. We will go, no kidding, a year and not hear anything from the United States Patent and Trade Office. A year. So with that model, I don't know that there would be an incentive for me to stick, because there's nothing for him to do and there's nothing for me to do. We're literally waiting on a third party. How does that function with how you deliver services now?
Yeah, so you're right in that aspect of hiring that trademark attorney. That's only going to be if you're just filing a trademark and you're not actually protecting your brand and you don't need to send cease and desist. A flat fee makes a lot of sense for that kind of engagement, right? But if you're going to be like monitoring and protecting your brand or filing, if you're posting things on social media that need like copyright protection too, which a lot of trademarks attorneys I know also help with that kind of thing. There are different ways that you can, as a trademark attorney, provide continuous service. But to answer your question directly, it's month to month, and I'm actually constrained in a lot of ways by legal ethics that I have to keep it month to month. If I were to do an annual subscription and give like a 10% discount or something like that, if they pay up front, the reality is according to legal ethics, if I haven't provided value for the service, if it doesn't become an earned fee, then I have to refund that money. So in my engagement agreement, which is public on my website, I want lawyers to start from that and adapt it to whatever jurisdiction you're in to meet your legal ethical requirements for engagement. But my subscriptions specifically are an earned fee. They're like I'm earning it up front for that month. Other stuff later on, like flat fees on top of that, I bill at the time that service is delivered immediately, and to the extent that I can, I've automated all of that through my client portal, all using no-code tools. I don't know how to code, but I did build out a bunch of automations using the technology that I use. So, like, I'll give you one example that I do. I real estate. So, like, if somebody were to hire me to be the real estate attorney in Illinois, they could sign up at just $20 a month. And then I charge a flat fee of $450. Again, all my pricing is on my website. Now, that's $200 less than the lowest price that other attorneys will charge in my state for a flat fee real estate closing. And the reason I charge less is because I want my clients to stay subscribed after the real estate closing. So they might first come to me saying, this is my only legal need. I have an upcoming real estate closing. Now, it's even better if they've been clients for other things and they're already paying me $20 or $100 a month. Then I know they're coming to me. That's one of the value of the business model. They're already paying me. They're already asking me legal questions as things come up with their job, as things come up where they take their, they hire a contractor that wants them to sign a contract. So if they're already using me, then when they have a real estate closing, I know they're coming to me, right? So, but that's a different example. In this example, they don't have a lawyer. They haven't hired me. They just signed a contract to buy a home, and they're looking for a real estate attorney. Well, then they'll find me, or I'll be referred to them or something, and I will only represent them if they sign up as a subscriber. So they sign up for $20. Then at the end, when we've closed in 2 to 3 months, I'll make that $450 at the closing, and they'll pay $20 a month up to that point. So it really their savings is more like $140 to $160 in savings from hiring any other attorney. And so they're still saving money, but also they're not just hiring a real estate attorney. They're hiring a fractionalized in-house counsel for their life. I can give them legal advice about anything, and I'm not going to be billing them by the hour, to do that. So if I could provide value to them beyond just that real estate closing, then when the real estate closing is over, they could unsubscribe or they can stay subscribed. And I make it really easy to unsubscribe and resubscribe, because other things come up and they already have the account with me. And if they unsubscribe, that's fine. Whenever they need legal advice in the future, they could resubscribe. So I make it really easy to unsubscribe, resubscribe. And I just want to give them value to keep, to stay subscribed month to month. But at least if it's month to month, I don't have to refund them money if they decide to unsubscribe later, to bring it back to the legal ethics thing. So that's sort of the way that it works. The same thing is true for like estate planning. I live very close to where we had that shooting tragedy in Highland Park, Illinois. I live just a town over. And so people are thinking about what happens when the unexpected happens. They want an estate plan. And I offer probably the most affordable estate plan, at least in my area, because I want people to stay subscribed with me because they're going to have other questions. I even offer a very affordable amount for if you ever want to make changes to your estate plan. It's a very small amount every month, and you can reach out to me and we'll do a change. We'll do an amendment. It doesn't take that much time. I'm using document automation, so like it really doesn't take me much time. And I've made sure that the wills, and advanced medical directives that I'm using are solid. So and if I need to update them, I will. But I use document automation. It takes me like no time to put this together. I just have to get the answers to the questions for the automation software that I'm using. Right? So why am I billing by the hour? It could take me 30 minutes to do it. If you break that down in a billable hour rate, I'm still kind of making like $250 to $300 an hour, but I don't think about it like that. So I incentivize people to stay subscribed. I try to give them value on a month-to-month basis. In the subscription economy, we call this lifetime value, LTV, and I'm trying to build that for for a legal practice, and it's very new. And so I have to educate people on why do I need a lawyer? I could read. Well, a contract is kind of like when you look at a contract or a legal document, what a lawyer sees is like a quadratic equation, right? Like we're seeing like all the complexities of it. Like we're not mathematicians, but like that's what we see. If a person's reading a contract, like I could read, they see like maybe some advanced arithmetic or like but they're missing so much and they don't know it because it's just words. Like we learn how to read when we're in elementary school, but there's a lot of nuances that just get missed when what we call a lay person is reading a contract. And so it really helps for them to hire somebody at a very affordable, transparent rate to help explain what they're getting into. A lot of what I do, I didn't know I would be doing, is just people who are like going to sign an employment contract. They just want to know what it means. They don't want to negotiate it necessarily. They don't want to figure that out. They just want to know what am I getting myself into. And for just a couple $100, and it turns out, being depending on the size of the contract, I could explain that to them, and then they know whether or not they want to sign that, that employment contract, right? To just go in fully informed versus hiring a lawyer, at $250, $300 an hour. Why would they ever hire a lawyer to help them understand that? It just doesn't make any sense.
No, and I would sit there and say, coming back from my experience with the real estate attorney type of thing, there was no guarantee. It was like everybody was trying to. The person that I was fighting against, because he was also a former lawyer, I left that out of my story earlier. He was looking for the holes in his own contract, essentially, that he had given us, and was successful at being able to do that. And it was not something we projected going forward into there. So I think it's good. I want to come back to you talked about value-based fees and some of the ethics within there, and that was not something that I was really familiar with within the legal industry, that you were kind of constrained with how you can handle that. So with your particular model, it doesn't. It allows for somebody that has a much more complex case or something that's going on that's got a lot more variables, a lot more moving parts in there to eat up potentially more of your time. Do you have triggers involved of that if you start getting all of these third-party extraneous factors because you come into an offshoot that may not line up exactly with some of the documentation, some of the tools that you have in place to account for somebody going on, hey, you've got your 15-minute block segments for the $20 an hour, but you've got somebody that went in there and booked all eight blocks for 2 hours up to manage that based on complexity of cases.
I would drop that client the next month. This is the value of month to month. But it is, you're absolutely right. And I haven't run into any of that yet. My clients respect, my time. And the reality is as my business grows, I'm answering client questions and I'm building up a knowledge base. So if I answer a client question that I think I'm going to get a lot of, I'll put it into writing. I'll remove personally identifying information, but it's actual legal advice I gave to an actual client, and all of my subscribers have access to that knowledge base. And so they can try to search that knowledge base first and say, maybe Kerbis has already answered this question. or it gets close to answering your question, but they have a slight nuance. So then they'll book a call with me, and I've already kind of gotten them part of the way to the answer because they've read, another landlord-tenant dispute type situation in my knowledge base, right? So, their time is valuable. So they have other things to do. They're not going to book my full 2 hours. That if you have a problem, like for my estate planning clients, if they sign up at $20 a month, 15 minutes is not enough time with them to do my document automation. I need half hour to an hour. So what I do is I send them another link. I use Calendly. I love Calendly. I send them another link that's a 45-minute meeting, and we should be able to wrap it in 45 minutes. So like when other needs come up, like if they're hiring me beyond the $20 a month, which they are, if they want an estate plan, if they want like a basic will and advanced medical directives, right? I'll send them a link for a longer meeting for us to answer that question. Let's say with like the landlord-tenant dispute type stuff, I have a popular package that I call the entry-level negotiation package or the premium negotiation package. With the negotiation package is just another $200 a month. Well, $199.99. Again, I'm communicating with consumers the way they're used to be communicated with, right? So for another $200 a month, I'll communicate with your tenant for you, right? Or I'll communicate with the other party. And from lawyers I've heard, I'm like, only $200 a month? What if you're on the phone with them all the time? I'm like, well,
sure.
I'm only getting $200 a month. So I'm going to be as efficient with my time as possible. I'm going to get down to brass tacks. We're going to solve the problem quickly, which makes the client, so the incentives are aligned, right? I'm going to make my client happier, by getting the issue resolved sooner. And I'm going to be efficient with the use of my time. And it's all about scale. It's about volume. So yeah, from one client, if they're signed up for $220 a month, that's not going to, be enough. But if you get 10, then you get 20, then you get 30. And everything's calendared. Like I live by my calendar, right? I don't let myself get double booked. The only exception to that is like when an emergency happens with the kiddo, right? But I'll it's very easy to send a reschedule link, and I really don't pick up the phone. I really don't. My message, if I like see a client's calling in and I was expecting, the call because we're resolving an issue, I'll pick up the phone. But I'm trying to train my clients and opposing counsel or the attorney on the other side of the transaction to book a time with me. Let's schedule a time. It's better for everyone. If we just get on each other's calendar and be more efficient with the use of our time than picking up random phone calls and answering phone calls. Like my voice message says, go to my website and schedule a call with me. I mean, like it's right there on my website. The very first page says schedule a call, especially for new clients that are interested. Like get on my calendar. Let's have a 15-minute conversation. It's not a free consultation because it's only $20 a month to actually get legal advice. So there you go.
It's funny. I'll go on a side tangent. There is still a lot of people resistant to using the calendar link for some reason. I have it with booking the podcast. I have it with other things. And it's not just even me. I see people complain about it. And it's one of those things, well, we can go back and forth 25 times and figure out a time, or you can just click that button and find it in 3 seconds. And I don't understand the resistance to that. I don't know if that's old school. The lawyers that I have been around, I won't sit there and say that in most cases they were actually technologically adept. So congratulations on you even using no-code tools to start automating those things.
So true.
So I want to make sure I heard this right because you said a lot, and when I start, and I want to make sure I heard this right. You started in your own practice March of this year, or did you start using this model March of this year?
No, I left a billable hour firm. I have 8 years of experience, and so I've been practicing law for 8 years. But I was originally going to launch a subscription model at the old firm. But it's very hard to build a practice within a practice. And that was a firm that was primarily litigation. And I had this growing transactional practice. And I had an opportunity I had just like 3 clients that were interested in the subscription model. But I had to build them by the hour at this firm. And so I was building a model. And my old firm has all of that, right? Like they have all of that. If they ever wanted to launch a subscription model, they totally can. But I wanted to build my own brand because trade names are allowed for law firms in every state now, thanks to a law firm that litigated in states saying that the legal ethics preventing trade names from being used. Like we still have to comply with certain things. Like I can't say best law firm in Illinois LLC. Like I can't have that type of trade name. But I went with subscription attorney because it says what I am. and I wanted to build a brand. And instead of it being my name, I know that maybe 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, if I ever wanted to sell my practice, I could sell that brand too, right? And because it's built like a SaaS business, software as a service business, but it's actually a service as a service on a subscription, right? There's predictable monthly recurring revenue, annual recurring revenue, and you could see the projections over time, right? So like I could eventually sell like the law firm, and it's selling the brand. Right. And I have no desire to do that in the near term. Right? Like I want to build this practice. I want to continue to grow it. My clients so far are very happy, and I don't need to be a millionaire. I don't need it. Would it be nice? Yeah, sure. But I mean, if I could hit, $500,000 a year in terms of what of like profit that I'm, bringing back home, that would be great. I'm not there yet. But I could see that. And then I could also help a lot of people, because that's at the end of the day, a lot of lawyers go to law school thinking I'm going to help a lot of people. But you don't. You end up working for an insurance defense company or for corporations, and you're not really helping people the way you thought you would. And so it's not that fulfilling of a job, which is why you hear about rampant alcoholism and mental health issues and, lawyers like dying of heart attacks at their desk, and so that's what it comes down to, is that's what I want to do. But yes, March of this year, I left and decided to implement the plan on my own. That I was kind of talking about with my last firm.
From Word Go. So Word Go, you were doing that. This was okay. That's what I wanted to. Yeah, sorry. That's what I wanted to clarify. That you didn't. I couldn't remember where the transition, the way that you had phrased it earlier. That you had transitioned to it, going, hold up, this isn't working. I don't like doing this anymore. Okay.
But it's tried and true in a way that lawyers for like the last 10 years, there have been lawyers using the subscription model. I just wanted to put my own spin on it.
Do you think there's any practice that's out there? And I would say maybe the ones that are more litigation, they're more in the courtroom or something like that, that this particular model may not fit or may not work because of, again, I'll go back to, there's too many X factors, there's too many intangibles, there's too many things outside of your control. Because the more I'm hearing this, the way I see it, and I'll make sure I have links in the descriptions for your website and everything, the way you structured your packages, it makes the work that you do relatively repeatable, because I'm all about systems. I'm all about frameworks, because that ensures, one, you can deliver faster than others if you got a reliable framework, and the clients can ensure that they're getting the same service across the board, because you don't want to be all over the map. Everybody may have different situations, but you're delivering repeatable, consistent quality service every single time from the go. But do you think there's other sorts of practices that this model, because of too many X factors, you're like, yeah, I don't know that this would fit with them because of just how that part of the law functions?
Again, very astute observation. Shows like you know what you're doing, and it's also a very good question, and it's a question I get a lot from lawyers. Right? It's like, well, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I don't want repeat offenders. I mean, I do, but I don't. Right? I don't want to incentivize repeat offenders. So yes, litigation and criminal defense are two of the hardest areas to adapt the subscription model to, at least when it comes to when you think of a traditional like law practice. For litigation, it does depend on the context, but especially for like high volume litigation, foreclosure defense, insurance defense. I mean, depending on like, other sort of high volume type work, you could do a subscription plus flat fee model and make it work real well. There's a flat fee up front, and I do have like a formula for this that you could plug it in. Flat fee up front. This isn't the full formula, but I'm giving a tease. Flat fee up front, a monthly amount, month to month, as the case is ongoing, plus costs. So like deposition fees and travel fees and stuff, because those probably won't always be covered by the monthly amount per month. And then you have to give them an incentive to actually end the case. So there's a flat fee when you settle the case, and it's resolved through a way that's not trial. And there's a much higher flat fee, per day or per month or per week for trial, for each week, right? And so, and I think that aligns all incentives. You have a carrot for the attorneys that they get. If they settle a case in 2 months, then they're going to make more money in those 2 months because they get the flat fee when you settle the case too. Right? It's not just month to month. So like the levels of how much they're getting month to month and the amount of the flat fee up front and the flat fee at the end, that has to be strategically implemented. Right? And I have some formulas that I could help other lawyers with if they wanted to do that, but it's very new. It's very innovative. Litigation firms are very hesitant to do this. And The companies that are hiring them are very used to the billable hour. But the reality is there's so much waste chasing down bills, reducing bills, hunting bills. You could just get rid of all those costs. And then you know exactly what you're going to be paying depending on how long the case is going to go. You know exactly what it's going to, what you're making as an attorney. You know exactly what you're paying, as the client. Like, insurance companies should love this idea, but we'll see. We'll see. It's still very new. And I have had some talks with some people at insurance companies to start demanding that their outside counsel law firms do this kind of thing. So we'll see if that goes anywhere. For criminal defense, there are other ways to use your legal knowledge as an attorney on the subscription model. And that is like building a course on how to comply with all your probation requirements, right? And so it's still using your legal knowledge. You're still giving legal advice, but it's not like what you traditionally think of as a criminal defense attorney. But you could put that on a subscription. So, okay, it was a lot of criminal defense attorneys that do like a more higher volume, they do like a flat fee. Like, it's like a flat fee to like whatever this DUI case or that. Like, some of them charge by the hour, but I've seen a growing amount of criminal defense attorneys use flat fees. So let's say, you charge X amount for flat fee, and you get them, they're on probation instead of serving time. And then you offer them a $50 a month course to make sure they comply with probation and they don't become a repeat offender. And the reason you charge $50 is because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You record the course and you're good to go. And maybe that includes they can book some time with you to ask you a question, kind of a thing. And maybe $50 is too low. Maybe it's too high. It depends on your market, how much time you're willing to invest in that course, and how much time outside the pre-recorded material are you going to be, talking to these people. You have to price it based on that.
I think this is something where I'll put another business idea into your head for down the road. Once you really, I mean, obviously you're a big advocate. It's working for you. It's still, March of this year, it is still new, and there's probably a lot of things that you got to get more time, more clients to see repeatable. This would be awesome in the medical community, because I see a lot of parallels between legal and that you become kind of the business model subscription, like how to apply these principles to other industries, and you go around and start teaching how to do that. And think of that. Think of vets, for instance. The places where the pricing is always an unknown for the consumer that needs it and needs it in a hurry because it's an emergency situation in a lot of those cases. Because I go back to preventative is way better than being prescriptive after the fact every single time. So anyway, just I'm sitting there, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm sitting there thinking about my conversations with others, like in the medical community, my own experience, because I've had a lot more with that. And I'm going, man, this is the same thing, except you're just legal and you just don't know. You get the mystery bill in the mail from something from 4 months ago. I got one recently. That's why that's popping into my head.
Yeah. And it's true, but really any professional service, right? Consulting, coaching. Like a lot of like legal coaches who I know, like they're basically doing a subscription. It's a month-to-month fee to like get coaching, right? They're already kind of doing it. So like any professional, CPAs, like they could probably do this, right? Some of them just operate on flat fees, but like there's ways to be providing added value. And if somebody's already paying you, even if it's like Netflix level prices, which is part of the reason why I have that entry level at $20, I'm competing. I'm competing with Netflix. I'm competing with Amazon Prime. I'm at a price level that consumers are already paying to have access to other things. And that's what they're getting with me. The $20 a month isn't like all your legal problems solved, but it's access to legal advice. It's access to below market flat fee rates. And it allows me to build a relationship with them. So when they have more problems, they come back to me. Same thing with medical, same thing with financial advisors, same thing with consultants, with coaches. The model is completely adaptable to other professional services without a question.
I want to transition a little bit away from that, more back to a little bit of the general legal stuff, and then I've got some ABA and for those listening, his Kerbis verse. But do you think, and correct me if I'm wrong, for people just graduating with their legal degree, you talked about all the major student loans. Isn't it true that, again, I'm going to make a parallel to the medical industry, that they get tossed into the fire upon graduating law school? It's long hours, it's long days. They're trying to make a name for themselves. They're trying to do. Am I correct in that assumption?
That a lot of lawyers do end up like that. Yes, and it's relative. It's relative, but yeah, typically I'd say that's a fair assessment.
So is there any advantage with the practice utilizing this methodology that makes revenue more predictable, that would ease up some of that unnecessary, I don't want to necessarily say unnecessary, but some of the stress that's invoked on recent graduates that come out with that idealism of going, I want to help people, I'm going to be the champion for XYZ. And then they find they're sitting there doing freaking paperwork half the time, and they're not really they're spending so much time doing things that can be automated or things that may not be unnecessary. Is there any relief from that that's not necessary? It's more qualitative versus quantitative.
Right. I think absolutely. And it is hard to measure, right? Like you said, but, and this even goes back to like earlier, your point about the woman attorney who had all her timesheets, everything listed out. If you're going to bill 8 hours a day, you're going to need to work at least 10 hours, probably more. Right. And the best way, like the way I did it when I was actually like before the pandemic where like everything changed, I had a whiteboard, and I would like the night before I left the office, I would put on my whiteboard, here's potential 10 hours of billable time tomorrow. So at least that way, if I don't get to all of it, I still try to bill 8 hours the next day. So like planning like was really important. It was really stressful, right? Because like if I didn't bill all my time, I could lose my job. I wouldn't get my bonus. And so like there's all these stressors put on, and I you kind of need your bonus because you have student loans, and then, if you're lucky, you have a mortgage or childcare or something, that you're paying for too. So like, and believe me, with the billable hour, the way that it's structured, it's like a pyramid, right? Where like a reverse pyramid, where the people on the bottom are billing all the time, but the most of the money's made by the people on top, right? And that's stressful. And you don't really see that because very quickly you get tunnel vision, and you're like, I need to bill my time to make money to pay off my debt. And like that's like what a lot of graduates are going through. But this model does allow you to, streamline things, not have to work 10 hours straight to bill 8 hours. You could do other things. You could still be productive. You could work on your automations. You could get out there and build a book of business. Because the reality is you could have the best, most efficient practice ever. And this is a tease for Law Subscribe for any potential lawyers listening, is I did just interview an attorney coach about building a book of business. Because if you don't have the business, it doesn't matter how streamlined and efficient and your practice is for repeatable business and repeatable procedures and processes if you can't bring in clients, right? And you can't have the mentality of if you build it, they will come. Although to a certain extent that actually has kind of worked with me, but like just like for like one scheduled call a week, like I'm doing some very targeted marketing because I'm still only 5-6 months into this thing, so I have more time than money right now to spend on that kind of thing. But I'm doing some very targeted paid marketing that is working, but I'm not doing a crazy amount, and I am still having people find me because of the way, because I'm not competing on Google with the term subscription attorney, right? So like if somebody, like some of the targeted things I'm doing, they're able to be like, oh, what's the subscription attorney thing? And they Google it, and I'm the top hit because there's no one else competing, with that name in that type of space, right? So it kind of depends. I think it can solve a lot of those problems. There are a lot of mental health issues that are associated with what I just talked about that attorneys face, and that's a risk for the clients. Clients don't want an attorney with mental health problems, right? or too much stress. Like it's not good for it's not good for the lawyer. It's not good for the client. I think the subscription model can help solve that problem among many others. There's other things like billable hours don't really comport with being like a mom and being a practicing attorney. And we see a lot of women being pushed out of the profession and pushed out of leadership at big firms. We have more women going to law school now than we've ever had before. There have been more women going to law school than men for many years now. And you're still not seeing that reflected in leadership at law firms in the profession. Why not? Because they have to build their time. It's incentivized to not be efficient and smart about their practice. And as I know from being married now for a while and having a daughter, women are smarter than men. So the billable hour doesn't comport with that. And so women are leaving. And most of the people I've had on my podcast, most of the innovative attorneys in the space are women. And so the model really works for them. And it's a way for them to have a more fulfilling and balanced life. I mean, for all lawyers, that decide to use this model.
Now, I don't know how the structure of this works. You referenced a couple of times, licensed only in Illinois. is this something that you're hoping, because this takes geographic boundaries away in a lot of instances, because you've got automation, you've got a client portal, and you're not doing in person, litigation in a courtroom type of stuff. Is it possible for you to go, hey, I want to go next door to Michigan, I want to go to Ohio, or Wisconsin, neighboring states? I don't know how that functions. Is that a possibility for you as you're looking to expand?
There is, within the ABA right now, we're looking at the model rules of ethics that lawyers have to follow. Like I talked about this in the billing sense earlier, but there are also restrictions on multi-jurisdictional practice. And so those barriers, we're trying to remove those barriers right now, where as long as it's not going to court, like this is like the proposal. And I'm really like simplifying this, but essentially, if I'm not going to court for somebody, I don't have to be licensed in that jurisdiction, specifically as long as I give them a disclaimer that says, hey, I'm not licensed in Michigan. But to the extent that I'm going to represent you, I'm going to still comply with my other ethical requirements of like researching the Michigan laws before giving you advice, right? But I can't go to court on your behalf. And so like that's like what we're looking at changing in the profession, but it's not changed yet. So that could take 4 or 5 years. By then, I should have a very robust, thriving practice, and I would be happy when that change happens and I could expand into other states. But in the meantime, as a solo practitioner, I'm only licensed in the state of Illinois. And so there are certain jurisdictions where I could get reciprocity, but usually you only get that when you're going to court for somebody. Like I do have some Florida clients who are transacting in the state of Illinois, but Florida doesn't do reciprocity. I'd have to sit for another bar exam, and I am never taking another test in my life if I could avoid it. So we'll see. We will see. Some lawyers have different opinions than that. Some lawyers think, well, as long as I'm not going to court, I could just apply that state's law. I disagree with that. I think you're engaged in the unlicensed practice of law at that point, and every state has different rules on multi-jurisdictional practice. So I could, so what am I doing? Well, with Law Subscribed, one of my goals is with that podcast is not just to have a podcast, but to have a community of innovative attorneys that we could refer business across state lines to each other. For trademark attorneys, that's federal law. So they can have a multi-jurisdictional practice across the whole U.S., which is another one of the reasons why that's where the subscription model started. They could do that for anyone, anywhere, right? It's a federal practice. But I'm filling like a hole in the market. Like that's what I'm trying to do. The big law firms, like if you were to hire, a big giant law firm, they have attorneys licensed in every state. That's why they could represent you anywhere, right? And that's why they cost you, $500 to $1,000 an hour. And so there is a need. Like, I'm so glad you brought it up, John, because like the bar associations need to look at this. It's like, this is an opportunity to fill the access to justice gap. This is that opportunity, but I am restricted by my license. Every state has its own license for attorneys, every jurisdiction, I should say.
So explain a little bit about the American Bar Association. Are there other bar associations? Is that the primary one that kind of influences what you can and can't do? Is that who sets the rules? Besides state laws and, legislatures and things of that nature. But as far as, is that like a governing body for lawyers, essentially?
Yeah, so in the state of Illinois, that is the Illinois Supreme Court that makes those rules. We do have an Illinois State Bar Association, and we have local bars like the Chicago Bar Association, the Cook County Bar Association. There are all different sorts of bar associations. There's like the Asian American Bar Association. And then they have different chapters in different states. Like so, it's all kind of like it's different depending on which bar association. But the American Bar Association is the largest one in the United States, and that is. And a lot of what they put out there isn't required that other states and their licensing authorities follow, but they're looked at as model rules that the other ones often adopt because the ABA has input from all the other licensing jurisdictions. There are certain things that the ABA does that are mandatory and required. I mean, but we could spend an hour just on all that.
Sure.
and so like a lot of what bar associations do is they don't just come up with rules and regulations for lawyers. They also have like ethics opinions. So like, the ABA has their model rules of ethics. The Illinois, the Supreme Court of Illinois has adopted those in part and made some unique things to Illinois, some changes for Illinois. And then like the Illinois State Bar Association will put out opinions. They have lawyers that are volunteering that they'll put out opinions on what they think these rules mean and what that means you can and can't do as a lawyer. So they're all kind of interacting. Some jurisdictions like I can't remember which state. There's a handful of states where actually their bar association is the licensing authority. So every state is kind of is different.
With your work and volunteer with the ABA, is that where you got the opportunity to interview and speak to some Supreme Court justices? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So I there's like there's a publication is like a huge part of bar associations in general across the board. And the ABA has some of the widest readership because we're talking about lawyers in, all across really the world. There's international membership too in the American Bar Association. So in the Young Lawyers Division, which is what I was a leader, I'm a current leader in that division right now. I was on like the publishing team, essentially. I was a managing editor on the publishing team, associate the managing editor. And so you work with authors from all over. Like I got to interview and have like this guy who was the first video game lawyer from the UK, like write an article about what it was like to be the first video game lawyer. Like, so there's like some really cool stuff like that I don't like have in my bio, right? But like really fun, really cool things. But then also as like on the publishing team, I also just got to interview people that would have great, ideas or have like an expertise that we want to pull from where it's not really, we don't want them to write an article because their time is valuable, but maybe we just want to do like an interview with them. And so I've been able to, meet and work with state Supreme Court justices. So, every state has their own state courts. So it's like the justices I've interviewed are state appellate justices and Supreme Court justices, not like the U.S. federal Supreme Court, right? But those people were actually people I already knew. I externed for the appellate judge that I interviewed when I was in law school, and one of the state Supreme Court justices, I knew she was on another board with me in the ABA. I was the young lawyer liaison to the section of legal education. They're the accrediting body. So they're part of the ABA, but they're separate from the ABA because they could kind of do whatever they need to do apart from the ABA's opinion, the section of legal education, when it comes to accreditation of law schools. Actually, the U.S. Department of Education has delegated its authority to accredit law schools to the ABA's section of legal education. So you have deans of law schools, you have private practitioners, you have state Supreme Court justices who are on that body. And I was a young lawyer, private practitioner. So very impressive, maybe one of the most impressive groups I'll ever have the honor of working with. And I got to be the voice of young lawyers, on that board. And so I got to know these state Supreme Court justices. So since I was also doing the volunteer publishing stuff, I just asked them, I said, hey, I think you'd be great to interview for this. Would you be willing to do that? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. Of course I would. And her interview has been republished and like put up in different ways so many times because it was such a valuable interview.
No, that's awesome. Well, as going to start wrapping up here in a couple of minutes, I want to touch on something else. So everybody's heard of the Marvel multiverse. I've had multiple people in the virtual reality space, so I've had multiple conversations on the metaverse. And I'm getting ready to introduce everybody to the Kerbisverse. So there's a whole website. I'm going to make sure there's a link on there. But the one thing I was very curious about was what is involved in being an esports agent, which triggered from your comment about being the video game attorney, because when I grew up playing video games, you fought with your siblings on who was going to have the controller. Sitting there watching other people play was that was unfathomable. And now there's gigantic industries where people don't even want to play. They just want to watch other good people. So what is your role in being an esports agent?
So John, you are such a good researcher that all you had to do is Google me, and I'm pretty sure it's like on the first page. But I don't actually like market the Kerbisverse, right? So it's just kind of something that I have out there. And I actually use it for like my speaker portfolio. So like when this goes live, I'll be adding that to my speaker portfolio on kerbisverse.com. It has like my public speaking on there. So all the interviews, everything I've ever been on. And that's actually really good for like media. So like if you need to speak on something else, you can be like, here's my speaker portfolio. So for me, it's kerbisverse.com/speaker portfolio. And I could just share that link. Someone could go to that and they could be like, okay, this is what he's like on camera. This is what he's like on audio. Great, I think it'd be a good interview. So like it's part of my press kit essentially too, that link. And I also have a press kit link that you can't actually get to from Kerbis First or from Subscription Attorney. I have different press kits depending on what I'm promoting. And so I've put together all these other things that I'm doing under an LLC that I've incorporated. It's Kerbis First LLC. So I have my law firm, Subscription Attorney LLC, and Kerbis First LLC. They are two completely separate and distinct entities. Of course, they're sole member LLCs, right? So it's just me in both of them. But under Kerbis First is where like I've kind of put together all these other side projects that I've been doing for years. And they're all, I'm not really marketing them. I have had some interest in the esports agent thing, but it's really something that I'm still developing. And the reason I've had interest in it is because I do attend a lot of like video game developer and like esport events type things virtually. There is a big event happening in Chicago. I think even at the time of recording, it might be going on right now. So when I attend those events and I get to meet up-and-comer streamers or esport athletes, they have actually reached out to me through my professionalgameragent.com brand. So I have a number of brands, and my Law Subscribe, my podcast brand, is under Kerbis First LLC. So the professionalgameragent.com brand is still something that's very new. I've actually been reading a lot of legal books on the video game industry written by lawyers. There's only 3 of them that I found so far on like the esports side. On the game development side, there's actually a lot of information there because it's just like any other company, software company, right? But on the esports side, there's not too many, there's some parallels with like being an agent for an athlete. However, it's not regulated like that. Like it's still kind of the Wild West. And so you have to be very careful. There's not really industry standards for being an agent. There are agencies, but I'm trying to be that representation. It's a way for me to use my legal knowledge to help them negotiate contracts and deals with the platforms that they're streaming on, or it's more streaming has been the interest, like up and coming streamers that maybe want to get into esports. But they get brand deals, they get other sorts of affiliate or advertising opportunities, and it's just helping them negotiate those deals. And it's not legal advice. Like I have to be very careful. Like you hear about lawyers going into, becoming like a sports agent. They're not acting as lawyers because they're also probably not licensed where all those contracts are happening, right? They're licensed in one jurisdiction, which ties back into the earlier question that you had. So I'm not giving legal advice, but I'm using my legal expertise and knowledge and skills to essentially consult as an agent to help them, with whatever brand deals and streaming opportunities that are coming up. That's the idea. I have some people signed up, but they haven't achieved those opportunities yet. And I'm not the agent that's like out there booking deals for them. I'm the agent who's helping them not be taken advantage of and end up, they're like licensing their brand in perpetuity in exchange for something. I'm helping them. This goes back into the type of legal services that I do offer, which is I'm helping people avoid big future legal problems up front. And I'm trying to do that in this space, which I think is going to explode. I think that so many people are trying to stream on Twitch and YouTube, and now Facebook is really investing a lot into live streaming. And so there's a lot of brand opportunities there for streamers, but also just to play competitively as an esport athlete. That is sort of a natural transition back and forth. And they want that. They want esports athletes to have to be streamers as well, because then they could improve the brand of that esports team, right? So like it all comes down to like branding and marketing. And so like you want to have both really. And so if I'm trying to get them on the front end, and then that way I can help them not be taken advantage of down the line. Cause you are starting to see stories of, some kid, got taken advantage of and, by some esports team or some brand, and now they're screwed. And I want to prevent that from happening. And I am a lifelong gamer. I've been playing games since before I can remember. I said sitting on my dad's lap playing the original Mario, like at 2 years old, right? So I've been playing games my whole life since becoming a parent. Not so much, but it is something that I'm personally passionate about, and that I know a lot about the industry. So that's one of the reasons why I am trying to move into that space. Though I'm not marketing it. I'm just kind of putting it out there when I attend these events. Hey, I'm a new esports agent, and if you're interested, here's my website, and you could sign up with me. So, no,
that's awesome. Curious. There's a bunch of stuff there, and everybody will be able to check it out. This has been awesome conversation. I've enjoyed it. Once some of those other things get rolling, I want to get back because those are definitely different niches that are would be interesting, particularly to up and coming market spaces. So, but what's the best way to reach out to you? Is it through the subscription attorney website? Is it LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram? What's all of the above?
Yeah, well, I am everywhere, as you have to be these days. But if you search Mathew Kerbis, Matthew with 1 T, on LinkedIn, or you search The Subscription Attorney, I should be up there. My DMs are open. I encourage you to connect with me on there. Subscriptionattorney.com. If you're interested in looking at the model, or if you happen to be in Illinois, you need to hire an attorney, you could schedule a call with me right from the very first page of the website. So I highly recommend you do that. Any lawyers, lawsubscribe.com. That's where the podcast is, and on all your favorite podcast apps and platforms, it's there too. But LinkedIn's probably the best way if they want to get a hold of me. I monitor that closer than I monitor email because I'm more in my client portal than my email. So LinkedIn and my client portal are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, this has been fun. I appreciate the time today. This has been an engaging conversation.
Thanks, John. It was great to be here.